So on here, I'm going to talk a little bit about integrations as a holistic view of how they're approached. Now, on the left there is a graphic. So you want to read that from top to bottom. And this concept really applies to just about every integration and how it's approached by if you do it custom or if you do it through like an iPaaS solution. Up top, you have your sources. The little cloud implies Sage Intacct, Salesforce, cloud-based solution. The second one is a data warehouse, database, SQL database that exists, and you have some content in there that you need to push or pull data out of. And then you have SFTP, which for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's essentially like a file explorer on your computer that you share with someone else, either another entity, another person. You're able to drag and drop files into that SFTP, and time allowing, I'm hoping to show you a demo of what that looks like. But that's the SFTP or flat file option. All of those are your sources. That's where the data comes from. And so you have to connect to those things, and that's done through that first step there, the credentials. If you're familiar with Sage Intacct, you might have like a web service user. Salesforce uses tokens. QuickBooks uses some other authentication. So it really varies from system to system, but you have to establish those credentials. And then once you've connected to the system, you collect the data, pull in what you need. I need to pull in all my GL detail from Intacct because I need to send it into my CPM, my adaptive system. Once you've pulled it into the system, you're going to get to this middle stage here. This is that staging table. So now the data exists in the integration tool. It could be a platform. It could just be passing through, even if it's built custom, same exact concept. Once it's in staging, you're going to move down here into this data transformation. There's almost no two systems that are identical. You're going to have, let's say in the example of an Intacct into an adaptive, a CPM, you need all positive values. Intacct is debits and credits. So you're going to have positives and negatives. So you need to flip signs to get them to show properly on your budgets and your forecasts. So those types of transformations, maybe the date is year, month, day, but you need it as month, day, year. All things that you probably have run into when it comes to going through what I like to call Excel gymnastics, where you're going to reformat things into the import templates. So all of those types of transformations happen at this stage, and they need to happen before you push it into the target. And then down here, you can see the targets are the same as the sources. You can go from cloud to cloud. You can go from Intacct to Intacct. It doesn't have to go to a distinct other solution. You can even go from Intacct as a cloud, bring in some additional data from a proprietary system through a flat file, and then push all of that into a data warehouse. So you can do many to one. So you get really creative as far as what those interactions look like. But this overall flow is what's going to apply to really just about any integration that you do. Now, the other way to think of this as well is if this isn't being done by an integration, by a computer, by a machine, it's going to get done by a person. That person is coming in here and they're pulling out the reports, Excels, potentially really ugly data that they have to pull from like an aging report with different, if anyone who's worked with any type of financial reports out of these systems, you have to work through some formatting issues to get to essentially this staging or transformation stage. Once you're in that transformation stage, you're in that Excel gymnastics stage, or Excel hell, as you may need to call it after a while. But once you get to that transformation stage, you might be using some ifs, and maybe you should have used some type of VLOOKUP first for a mapping. And so there's a lot of risk once you're in that if you're doing this manual, where your data integrity becomes a major concern. And then you push the data into the templates for upload into the target. So if someone's manually doing this, and they go through that process, and I'm the CFO, I'm creating my board report, and I notice something's off. I can't present that incorrect data. So now I'm at an impasse because I can either ask that person who's handling the data migrations to go back in, modify the data at the source, and then redo all of their work, or maybe I change it just in my report. I just change the number on the final output, but then how do I ensure all my data is accurate? So at every stage here, if you don't have a solution that is going through these steps and you replaced it with somebody manually doing it, it becomes an issue as far as lost time, efficiency, and then just overall concerns and being uneasy about the data and its integrity.